My brother got a full ride to college, while I was told to figure it out on my own. I used to think fairness was something that existed in families, that love meant equality, that parents who claimed to care for their children would give them the same opportunities, the same encouragement, the same foundation to build their lives upon. But I was wrong. I learned that lesson the hard way, watching my brother David get everything I never could. It started small, subtle things, a better birthday gift, a few extra dollars slipped into his hand while I was told to save better if I wanted anything for myself, a knowing smile from our mother when he broke something expensive, followed by, "It was just an accident," while I got screamed at for so much as dropping a glass. 100 little signs that should have told me from the beginning that I wasn't the child they had chosen to invest in. But I didn't see it, not at first. I convinced myself I was imagining things, that maybe if I just tried harder, worked more, proved my worth, they would see me. That illusion shattered when college came. David got a full ride, not because of his grades. His GPA was barely above average. Not because of his extracurriculars. He had never worked a day in his life, never struggled, never had to push himself beyond the bare minimum. But when he applied, my parents made sure everything was covered. Tuition, housing, meal plans, extra spending money. They pulled from savings, asked for help from relatives, did everything to make sure their golden boy never had to feel an ounce of struggle. And me? We can't afford it twice. You're independent. You'll figure it out. Your brother needs it more. They said those words without hesitation, without shame, as if the idea of helping me was laughable, as if my future was an afterthought, a side note in their grand plan for David's success. I remember the moment it hit me. Sitting at the dinner table, looking at my mother as she proudly spoke about how excited she was for David to start his new journey, how lucky he was to have parents who cared enough to set him up for greatness. I had swallowed the lump in my throat and asked cautiously, "What about me?" The silence that followed was deafening. My father barely glanced up from his plate. My mother gave me a tired, practiced sigh like she had been waiting for this conversation, like she had rehearsed her response. "We just don't have the funds for that," she said, voice dripping with the same condescension she always used when she thought I was being difficult. "But you're resourceful. You'll figure it out." David didn't even look at me. He just kept eating, as if none of this affected him, as if my struggle was something happening in another universe entirely. And that was when I realized I wasn't part of this family in the same way he was. So I figured it out. I worked 3 jobs, balancing shifts between classes, barely sleeping, barely living, just trying to survive while my brother thrived without a care. I took out loans so massive they suffocated me, the weight of them pressing down on me every second of every day. I watched my peers enjoy their college years, going to parties, studying abroad, making memories, while I was scrubbing floors, serving food, and staying up until 3 a.m., finishing assignments because I had no choice. I fought for every inch of my success while David coasted. And my parents? They never asked if I needed help, never checked in to see if I was okay, never once wondered how their other child was surviving. But it didn't matter, because in the end, I made it. Through sheer force of will, through endless exhaustion and sacrifice, I clawed my way up, graduated with honors, built a career, created a life that I owned, that I earned, that they had nothing to do with. And then, years later, when the dust settled, when I finally breathed, the phone rang. It was my mother, and she wasn't calling to congratulate me. No, she was calling because David was in trouble. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, as her voice dripped through the line like poison-coated honey. "He's struggling," she said, with that same expectant tone she always used when she assumed I would obey. "He can't keep up with his student loan payments. He lost his job and he's falling behind on rent. Your father and I have done everything we can, but we just don't have the money to help him." I said nothing. She took that as permission to continue. "You're doing well now," she said, as if that fact alone meant I owed them something. "You have a good job, a stable life. Family helps family, sweetheart. Family helps family." Funny how that rule never seemed to apply to me. I let the silence stretch long enough for discomfort to creep into her voice. Finally, I spoke. "Let me get this straight," I said, my tone even. "You gave David everything. You paid for his education, set him up for success, never once expected him to struggle the way I did. And now that he's failing, I'm supposed to fix it? My mother hesitated. It's not like that. I let out a humorless laugh. Then explain it to me. She sighed, exasperated, like I was being unreasonable. We just assumed, well, you've always been the strong one. You've never needed us the way he did. The words landed like a slap. I had never needed them? Or had they just never been there? I gritted my teeth. And what if I say no? Her voice turned sharp. You can't say no. He's your brother. He would do the same for you. I laughed then, a sharp, bitter sound. Would he? Because when I was drowning in debt, working 3 jobs just to stay afloat, he never once offered to help. He never cared. Don't be petty. That did it. That snapped something inside me that had been held together by fraying threads for years. Petty? I repeated, my voice cold. You think this is petty? No, Mom. Petty was treating me like an afterthought while you handed David everything. Petty was telling me to figure it out while bending over backward to make sure he never had to lift a damn finger. Petty is expecting me to clean up a mess that I had no part in creating. I could hear her breathing, uneven now. I just don't understand how you can be so cruel. I closed my eyes, inhaled slowly, and let out the last words I would ever say to her. Cruel, I murmured. No, Mom. Cruel is raising 2 children and only loving one of them. Then I hung up, blocked her number, deleted every message. Silence followed after I hung up on my mother, thick and suffocating, but I didn't rush to fill it. I just sat there, phone still in my hand, staring at the blank screen. There was no satisfaction, no immediate surge of victory, just a slow, creeping numbness. I had done it. I had finally told her no, and yet, deep down, a voice whispered that it wasn't over. Not yet. Because my mother had never been the type to accept rejection. She wasn't one to take no for an answer. She would try again, and when she did, she would make sure I felt it. The next morning, my inbox was flooded. Unread messages 14. I clicked, already knowing what I would find. First, the guilt. Mom, I don't understand how you can turn your back on your own brother. After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us? Mom, you've changed. You used to be such a sweet, caring child. What happened to you? Mom, I didn't raise you to be so heartless. Then, the manipulation. Mom, David is struggling. He's depressed. He's not like you. He wasn't built to handle this kind of stress. He needs his family. Mom, I'm begging you. Just help him get back on his feet. That's all I'm asking. A small loan even. He'll pay you back. Mom, you have money. We all know you do. What's a few thousand to you? And finally, the anger. Mom, fine. If you want to be selfish, but don't expect this family to be there for you when you need us. I laughed. Actually laughed at that one. When had they ever been there for me? When I was drowning in debt, working 3 jobs just to afford tuition? When I had no one to lean on, no safety net, no support system? When they told me to figure it out while handing David everything? They had never been there. And now, they were outraged that I wasn't willing to save the son they had chosen over me. How ironic. I ignored the messages, deleted them all, blocked my mother's number. I had nothing tying me to them. No more begging for approval, no more bending over backward to be seen. I was free. But freedom, I was learning, didn't always come without consequences. Because later that night, there was a knock at my door. And when I opened it, David was standing there. For a moment, neither of us spoke. He looked different than the last time I'd seen him. He was thinner, his normally well-groomed appearance disheveled, dark circles shadowing his eyes. But beyond that, beyond the exhaustion and the clear desperation that had driven him to show up here uninvited, I saw something else. Entitlement. Like he expected me to let him in. Like he assumed I would fix this for him. Just like our parents had always assumed. I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. What do you want, David? His lips pressed together like he was trying to decide whether to go with guilt or anger. In the end, he chose the same tactic my mother had, playing the victim. I just wanted to talk, he said, his voice carrying that same practiced innocence he had used since we were kids. Can I come in? I didn't move, didn't step aside, didn't invite him in. Because the truth was, I didn't want to talk. Not to him, not to any of them. But I also knew that if I didn't hear him out, he wouldn't stop. I exhaled sharply. Fine. 5 minutes. David nodded, stepping inside like he belonged there. Like I owed him this. He looked around my apartment as if taking inventory, eyes flicking over the expensive furniture, the framed diplomas on the wall, the subtle but undeniable signs of success. I could see the envy tightening his jaw, the barely concealed bitterness in his expression. "Nice place," he said finally, sitting down on my couch. I didn't respond. I just watched him, waited, and, as expected, he got straight to the point. "Mom and Dad told me you won't help." I let out a slow breath, already tired of this conversation. "That's right." His brows furrowed, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing, like it hadn't even occurred to him that I might refuse. "You're seriously just gonna let me fail?" he asked, incredulous. "After everything?" That made me laugh. I sat down across from him, meeting his gaze with an unwavering stare. "After everything?" I repeated. "Tell me, David, what exactly have you ever done for me?" His mouth opened, closed. I nodded. "That's what I thought." He exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "Come on. This isn't about the past. I'm struggling. You know what that's like." "Oh, I do," I said, my voice cool. "I know exactly what that's like. The difference is, I had to figure it out alone." His jaw tightened. "So, what? This is revenge? You're punishing me?" "No," I said, standing up. "This is me learning my lesson." David shot up from the couch, frustration seeping into his expression. "You're unbelievable." "Am I?" I tilted my head. "Or are you just mad that no one's cleaning up your mess for you?" He scowled. "You're just like them. You know that? You always acted like you were better than me, but deep down, you're just as selfish as they are." I stepped closer, my voice low, sharp. "No, David, I'm not like them. That's the difference. They handed you everything and let you fail anyway. I built this life on my own. And now, I'm keeping it." His lips pressed into a thin line. He looked away, shaking his head. And I knew in that moment that he finally understood. I wasn't going to help him. Not now. Not ever. And it killed him. He exhaled harshly, stepping back toward the door. "Fine, whatever. Enjoy your perfect life." I didn't stop him. I didn't say a single word as he walked out, slamming the door behind him. David didn't come back. Not the next day, not the next week, not even the next month. At first, I thought maybe he would. Thought maybe there'd be one last desperate attempt to guilt me, one final pathetic plea for help. But as the days stretched into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, the silence remained. It was a silence I welcomed. It should have been over then. Should have been the end of the chapter, the last page in the long, painful story of my family's neglect. But life has a way of throwing in one final test, one last reminder that even when you think you're done with the past might not be done with you. Mine came in the form of a phone call. It was late, close to midnight, when my phone rang. I was already in bed, already halfway between sleep and wakefulness, when the screen lit up with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, almost rolled over and let it go to voicemail. But something in my gut told me to answer, so I did. And the moment I pressed the phone to my ear, I knew. It was my mother. Her voice was thin, shaky, not the cold, manipulative tone I had grown used to, but something else entirely, something desperate. David's in the hospital. I should have felt something, worry, concern, a rush of old sibling affection long buried beneath the weight of resentment. But all I felt was exhaustion. Still, I listened as she spoke, half expecting another lie, another manipulation, another attempt to drag me back in. But the words that followed weren't the ones I had braced for. He tried to kill himself. Silence. A long, suffocating pause. I sat up in bed, my throat tightening, my mind trying to process the weight of what she had just said. They found him in his apartment. Pills. A note. She inhaled sharply. "He's alive, but we don't know what's going to happen next." I swallowed hard. I wanted to ask why she was calling me. I wanted to ask what she expected me to do about it. But I already knew the answer. She expected me to fix it. Just like I had always been expected to fix everything. I didn't rush to the hospital. I didn't drop everything and drive through the night to be by David's side, didn't let the old habits of obligation and guilt drag me back into their grasp. Instead, I sat in the dark, staring at my phone, weighing the weight of my next decision, because this was it. This was the choice, the one that would define the rest of my life. Whether I let myself be pulled back into a cycle of responsibility that was never mine to bear, or whether I finally, truly, let go. And in the end, the decision was easy. I went. But not for them. Not for David. I went because I needed to see it for myself. I needed to close the door properly. The hospital was quiet when I arrived, the sterile scent of antiseptic and something heavier, something sadder, lingering in the air. I found my mother in the waiting room, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. Gone was the sharp, overbearing woman who had always dictated my life, replaced by someone fragile. She looked up as I approached, relief washing over her features. "Oh, thank God," she breathed, reaching for me. "I knew you'd come." I took a step back. Her hands froze in midair. Her face crumpled, the expectation of comfort shattered in an instant. "I'm not here for you," I said flatly. "I'm here to see him." She flinched, like I had slapped her, but said nothing. I saw it, the realization in her eyes that she had lost me. For good. David was pale, paler than I'd ever seen him, his skin almost gray under the fluorescent lighting. There were IVs in his arms, monitors beeping softly beside his bed. He looked small, vulnerable, so different from the brother I had grown up resenting. And yet, even as I stood there, staring at him, I felt nothing. Not hatred, not grief, not even anger. Just nothing. I sat down beside him, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest, waiting. It took a few minutes, but eventually his eyelids fluttered. His gaze flickered toward me, unfocused, confused. "You came?" His voice was barely above a whisper. I nodded once, a beat of silence. Then, "I thought you hated me." I tilted my head. "Did you ever care if I did?" He swallowed, looking away. "I don't know. Honest. I let out a slow breath, leaning back in the chair. "Why'd you do it?" He didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "Because I didn't know how to be alone." I frowned. He let out a small, bitter laugh. "You were always good at that. Being alone, figuring things out. I never had to." His fingers clenched weakly against the hospital blanket. "I thought they'd always take care of me. I thought life would just work out." I stared at him, something heavy pressing against my chest. That was the difference. That was why we had turned out so different. I had been forced to stand alone. David had never learned how. And now, it had nearly destroyed him. I could have forgiven him, could have reached out, told him we could start over, that we could rebuild a relationship now that he understood. But the truth was, some things can't be undone. Some wounds cut too deep. I stood up. His eyes widened slightly, panic flickering across his face. "You're leaving?" "Yes." "But—" I met his gaze, my expression unreadable. "I spent my whole life holding things together for other people, David. That's over now." He swallowed. "So that's it?" I nodded. "Take care of yourself," I said quietly. "This time, you're the only one who can." And then I turned, walking out of the room, walking past my mother's silent, stunned figure, walking out of the hospital and into the cold night air. I wasn't carrying anyone else's burdens, just my own.